So therefore, these little animals in the middle are the essence of the whole problem. This is what I try to say. Don't ignore those little animals. They are where all this other stuff comes from. They are the cause of all our problems. It's not these states of being are only difficult because they are governed by these three little animals in the middle. They are governed by our greed, hatred, and delusion. And until we totally uproot our greed, hatred, and delusion, which we cannot do until we uproot our misunderstanding of the nature of the ego, until then we're going to suffer. And what is worse, we create suffering for other people too. I mean, it goes together. So, I mean, you might be sitting there thinking, I'm not suffering, I'm perfectly happy. And then you discover that somebody next to you, somebody you love very much, has some incurable disease, or they get killed in an accident, and suddenly what happened to all this bliss? Because impermanence is part of the name of the game. Death, impermanence, old age, sickness. We all want to hold on to things we love and we think is pleasurable, and we want to keep it forever. But it's not going to be forever. Anybody. We deny that anybody we love is ever going to be hurt or is going to die. That couldn't happen to me. That happens to them. But people are dying all the time. It doesn't matter whether we love them or don't love them. But we can't let them go even when they die. We've still got to hold on. We create so much suffering for ourselves beyond the external problems of life by our attitude. And this inability to accept and to let go is based on our grasping mind. The Buddha said that our suffering is caused by our grasping mind, which depends on our delusion. This is so important because, you know, we're trapped. It's a prison. Samsara is a prison. And whether you're in a penthouse suite or whether you're in a dungeon, it's still a prison. And you never know if you're in a penthouse suite, if next week you're going to be put into the dungeon. Or likewise, you know, elevated up. Who knows? Because we're always, these prisoners are getting shifted around. But, you know, we're all trapped until we find a way out, the key. Then you just walk out. So these little beings in the middle there are very, very important. If you remember, it's the cockerel who represents desire, grasping, greed, lust, all those kind of attitudes of wanting more and holding on. And then the snake who represents anger, aversion, irritation, and so forth, hatred. And the pig who represents our basic inability to understand how things really are, that we solidify everything. We solidify our sense of self as something permanent and solid and enduring and unchanging at the center of our being. And likewise, everything outside is something separate to us, separate people, separate things, all very, again, very solid, very separate, very unchanging. We do not see things how they really are, which is that they're moment to moment changing, that everything looks so solid, but as science itself tells us, it's not solid at all. And we ourselves feel so real and so enduring, but again, moment to moment to moment, it's all flowing. It's a river. If you look at the river today, you look at the river tomorrow, it looks like the same river, but everything in that river has changed. but we don't see it. And so we're trapped in our prison house. So in our prison house of these three animals, outside of that are, you see a white half and a black half. And the white half is all the goodies going up. And the bad, all the bad is going down, right? This is very absolutely identical with the same picture in medieval Gothic cathedrals. On the walls outside the entrance again, you get again this circle, and the good is going up, being led by an angel, and the bad is going down, being led by a demon. It's just exactly the same. So the idea is that those who create good karma meaning those actions of body, speech, and mind which are not so contaminated by the negative afflictions of our greed and anger and so forth. And so therefore they are wholesome karma based on kindness and generosity and patience and compassion and so forth. So any actions of body, speech, and mind which are linked with these. The Buddha said that karma, which means action, karma is intention, right? So it's not even so matter what we do, but the underlying motivation of why we actually did it. Whether it is conjoined with the good roots of non-anger and non-greed and non-delusion, or the negative roots of anger and greed and delusion. So it's not even what we tell ourselves, you know, because normally whatever we do, we can always find a good excuse for it. But the real underlying intention behind it, that is what makes the karmic results positive or negative. So if you have lots and lots of good things, you know, basically you're good intentioned, you try to help people, you're kind, you're patient, and so forth, then you're being led upwards by the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And otherwise, if our conduct is mostly very negative, harming people, hurting people, very greedy and selfish, very angry and destructive, or very, very deluded in our thinking, then we are not in for a good time next time round. And so then we come to these 6 realms of existence. And if we start at the bottom, then, and all around that is the rim. The rim we don't have time to go into, but these are what are called the Pratitya Samutpada. This is the 12 links of conditioned existence, of interdependent origination, starting with ignorance and going through craving and volitional activities and so forth. And how, from our habitual responses based on our ignorance, we reach out and grasp and hold on and cannot let go. And one thing leads to another, which leads again back into old age, sickness, death, and rebirth. So these 12 nidanas around the rim here, which are all illustrated by little pictures, are dealing with how it works internally, that, you know, we just keep going. One thing leads on to another, moment to moment to moment, not just over lifetimes, but moment to moment, how one thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, and we're just again caught up and going round and round, endlessly cycling, like a bicycle. You know, it just goes, the wheels keeps going round and round and round and round and round. Where's the beginning, where's the end? And until you break the wheel, you're not going to stop it going around. It's like also, like a rodent on a wheel. We're endlessly scrambling, getting nowhere. So, so within that, then there are these segments. These are the traditionally considered to be the main places of rebirth within this wheel of birth and death. So at the bottom, we have the hell realms. Now, traditionally, of course, the hell realms, as in all traditions, I think, so in Christianity, are considered to be down there, somewhere. I mean, if anybody has ever read Dante's Inferno, you get the idea. In Buddhism, likewise, they are regarded traditionally as being under the ground, layer after layer after layer. But as Shantideva, the great 7th century Indian Pandit, said, who made these red-hot floors and all the demons? They are the projection of a perverted mind. And so bear that in mind. In Buddhism, there are hot hells and cold hells, and intermediary hells. Altogether 18. Now, you might think 18 hells is pretty unfair, but there are 26 heavens. So do not say Buddhism is pessimistic. We have 26 heavens, we'll get there, but we have 18 hells. 8 cold hells, 8 hot hells, and 2 intermediary hells. So even while we live with our apparently material body, nonetheless, so much of what we experience is a projection of our own mind. I mean, ultimately, on one level, it's all more or less a projection of the mind, but even on a relative level, if we are happy, then the most gloomy day seems radiant. If we are miserable and depressed, even the brightest day is dark. And, if you get different people's versions of what they saw or who they met, depending on their state of mind, that's how they will interpret it. But still, there is some material foundation for this to happen. When we die, however, we leave our seeming material form behind, and it's all mind. Our consciousness goes with us when we die. Our consciousness and our karma goes with us. And so when we die, we are completely at the mercy of our projections. This is very important to understand. We will meet up with, essentially we will meet up with the contents, the habitual contents of our own mind, projected. And this is why it is considered very important. One of the reasons, not the only, but one of the reasons why it's very important to really check on the contents of our mind. And the kind of mind projections which we are already experiencing. In the text it says that we also will meet up at that time with people basically on our own vibrational level, so to speak. So that if we are relatively nice people, if we are enlightened beings, we will meet with enlightened beings, right? I mean, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas will come and greet us. Or if we have a great deal of devotion, they will come. I mean, if you're a very devout Christian, you will meet with Christ or the Madonna. If you're a very devout Mahayana Buddhist, you will meet with Amitabha, which is why the Chinese always say Amitofo for everything. Amitabha Buddha, hello, Amitabha Buddha, thank you, Amitabha Buddha, goodbye, Amitabha Buddha. Omitofo, Omitofo. You can get a long way in China just with Ni Hao and Omitofo. But the idea for that is that if anything happens, Omitofo, and Omitofo will be there. You understand? For example, when Gandhi was shot and killed, as he was shot, he said, Ram Ram. You know, God. One time I was in a nun, actually, an American nun, so she's not here, was driving, and we picked up these this elderly Indian couple. And we were driving along, and then this car swerved, so we had to swerve into what we thought was a ditch, because it was all leaves. But it was a ditch. It was covered with leaves. It looked like it was part of the road, but it wasn't. It actually was just a big ditch. So the car almost went over. And in that moment, then the nun issued a swear word, which I will not repeat. I said, Mamma Mia! And the couple in the back said, Bhagavan, God, you know. They got it. So be prepared. So the point is that when we die, we will basically meet our mind. And therefore, it's very important that while we still have the choice, we can choose to think rightly. So that when we die, we have nothing to fear.